It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hello, you're watching the Eagle Community Television Forum. I'm Mike Kerner in for Gary Shorman this week. The show brought to you by Hayes Med. And our guest today, Dr. Joyce Ellis of Russell. That would be kind of tough, Ellis of Russell.
People have confused that before.
Now, you are an instructor at Fort Hays State University in the physical education department. We'll kind of get to that, but we want to kind of go back in your life a little bit and talk a little bit about physical education. How did you get into physical education, and when did you know you wanted to be in physical education as an instructor?
Well, I'll tell you, I was a farm kid, and so I was outside and active from the time I could move at all. Probably in grade school, I would say around third or fourth grade, it was just very clear to me that I loved physical education and I loved activity and I loved sports. And I just knew that this was exactly what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be a physical education teacher.
Were there some games and some sports that you really were fond of growing up?
Oh, my favorite sport was softball, and I had the opportunity to start playing softball the summer out of the fourth grade. And they didn't have organized high school softball at the time. We played only during the summer. But I was on a team and helped coach youth teams even as a high school student coaching grade school children in Osborne, Kansas, where I grew up. And so spent a lot of years playing softball. When I got into high school, again, they really didn't have a lot of organized sports. I think it was my sophomore year they started women's basketball. And so, of course, I played. And junior year they started volleyball. So I was involved as much as I could from the get-go.
Well, it sounds to me like you kind of grew up when there was these changes where they started to see more and more women's and girls teams come about within the school systems, and that's got to be kind of neat to see.
It was kind of interesting. You know, looking back, I wish we would have had the opportunity from middle school on to play basketball and volleyball, but you know, I go back to Osborne, and you know, they won a lot of state championships, and I go back, and some of my classmates that I played ball with, and we walk into that gym, and we can look up at their plaques and say, you know, we got this started. We were the first team back in the day, so it was interesting. It's been fun to be a part of that.
Well, you talked about high school and trying to do some coaching of some teams and stuff. How did you, or where did you go to college, and how did you get involved in the sports in college?
Well, I went to school here at Fort Hays State University. I had a good friend in Osborne who was a physical education major here. She was a couple years older than I am. And she played varsity volleyball and softball here at Fort Hays. Vicki Dugan was her name, and her sister Judy Dugan also went to school at Fort Hays. So they kind of led me in that direction, and I did play 1 year of softball here at Fort Hays State University, and then got caught up in the books and the boys and education in general. Just found that it was just too much for me to continue to play ball. There were no scholarships in those days, and I had to find a job. So gave up softball and just focused on my education.
Now, you say you focused on your education. I see something that's behind your name, PhD, and we call you Dr. Joyce. How did the PhD come about? Because you can't get a PhD at Fort Hays. Where did you go for that?
Actually, I got my PhD, just finished that in 2008. I graduated from Fort Hays with my undergrad degree and really wanted to get out and teach. And so I got a job and started a family. In '98, I went back and finished my master's degree from Fort Hays State University. Had never really had any intentions of doing a PhD, but I was teaching at Rupenthal Middle School in Russell and got a phone call one day from someone who had been a classmate of mine through my master's program. And he told me that there was a potential opening at Kansas Wesleyan University and in Salina, and that he would like for me to apply. So I did. I interviewed, was hired, and then they encourage you to pursue your PhD. And so I got that through K-State and did the PhD in curriculum and instruction with a focus on teaching.
Well, that's probably what we'll get into the next half of the show. We'll talk a little bit about the classes you teach and some of the kids you influence, but also something that the governor has appointed you to, and we'll get to all that in the second half of the show. Again, our guest today is Dr. Joyce Ellis of Russell. Of course, she is an instructor at Fort Hays State University, and we'll get into some more of that information here in the second half of the show. We'll be back in just a moment here on the Forum.
Hays Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hays Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hays Med, helping people be healthy.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to the Forum. I'm Mike Kerner in for Gary Shorman this week on the Forum. By the way, if you've got any questions or comments you'd like to forward those to Gary, you can do that. Email him at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. That's gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. You can also look at some of the past shows and see what we're up to. Just go to the ECTV Forum on Facebook. Again, our guest today is Dr. Joyce Ellis, and she is from Fort Hays State University. You teach at Fort Hays State University. We kind of mentioned that. What are some of the classes that you teach right now?
Well, my focus is basically preparing physical education teachers. So I teach a class called Teaching Team Sports, show them how to work with students in a gym and teaching a lot of different team activities. I also teach the Elementary Methods course, which is basically one of the final courses that physical education teacher education students take in their preparation to go on to student teaching. Another course that I teach is actually for elementary educators who are not physical education majors. It's the only class they take that prepares them to teach health in the elementary school and to also integrate some physical activity into their elementary academic room.
Do you see a lot of jobs out there for people wanting to get into that field?
Well, not a lot of jobs. You know, physical education, art and music, those three, they call them the specials. I think they're special, but a lot of times those are the areas that are cut in budget in the times when budgets are tight. And so jobs are probably a little more difficult in those areas, but I always tell my students, if you're willing to be mobile, and if you're willing to look around and move around, there are jobs available.
I would think that in today's society, you know, we talk about kids being obese, a lot of kids, and not getting a lot of movement around, that this might be something that you might see opening up a little bit more in the future.
Well, we would hope so. Again, with budget cuts and the fact that physical education is not one of the core curricula courses in schools, they're not tested on physical education like they are math and science and reading. And so, again, that's one of the areas that they tend to reduce staff in if they need to.
Are there some of the games or something, new trends that you're starting to see over the last couple of years in physical education? I know maybe at one time it was this, now it's something fresh, some fresh new ideas that you're seeing out there?
There are some neat new ideas out there. I don't know if you've heard of slacklining. It's much like tightrope walking, but they've got a system that's designed to be set up in a gymnasium, teaches balance and coordination. Obviously, there's the skate in school programs, and they have the inline skates, again, safe for gym floors. I work with a program called the National Archery in Schools program, and that is an archery program, but it's designed to be set up indoors in a gymnasium. It's totally safe for indoor use. And so a lot of schools are catching on to teaching archery a lot more than they used to.
I see it was big in the Olympics the last time around too.
Yes.
So anything, I guess, to get the kids involved and get them into being with others and socializing is probably a
Right.
good thing.
Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the nomination that you recently had. You were nominated Governor's Council of Physical Fitness, and voila, that you were picked. So you're on the committee now, the council. What is this council all about that the governor's put together, and what do you do on this council?
Well, basically, the council is advisory in nature, advisory to the governor and to the Secretary of the Department of Health and Environment. And we focus on physical activity, diet and nutrition, and the prevention of use of tobacco products. Those are the three main things that we focus on. There are a number of subcommittees on the council. I actually chair the subcommittee on the Kansas Kids Fitness Day, which was just held last Friday. We had around 300 third graders out on the intramural fields at Fort Hays State University, all involved in activity for about a 2-hour period of time. Many schools across the state of Kansas also held Kansas Kids Fitness Day last Friday. So that's one of the subcommittees. I'm on another subcommittee that focuses on physical activity throughout the school day in schools, before school, during school, and after school, helping teachers understand how they can integrate more activity into the day.
You know, we talked about just a few minutes ago about how the physical education is kind of one of those specials. Now that you're on this committee with the governor, is there any way you can maybe push it a little bit heavier and make more physical education a little bit more higher priority?
Well, we'd like to. I'm not sure I have that much power or influence, but obviously we advocate for quality daily physical education. That's our goal, for students to have the opportunity to have physical education every day for at least 30 minutes and to be taught by certified teachers.
Well, if there's somebody out there watching and they want to become a physical education instructor at a school somewhere, how would they go about it? Would they contact you or somebody else down at Fort Hays State University?
Certainly, they can contact myself or actually anyone in the department. Our department chair, Glenn McNeil. The other person that kind of focuses on training physical education teachers is Dr. Steve Sedbrook. And so we would be happy to sit down and visit with them, talk to them about the courses they would need to take and what would be involved in becoming a certified physical education teacher.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Again, she's on the physical fitness, I guess it's called the Governor's Council of Physical Fitness, newly appointed. And again, our guest today is Dr. Joyce Ellis of Fort Hays State University. That's the Forum today, brought to you by Hays Med. I want to thank you. I'm Mike Kerner in for Gary Shorman. Have yourself a great week, and thanks again for joining us here on the Forum.
Hays Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hays Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hays Med, helping people be healthy.